Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. And as usual, I'll remind you, join the mailing list. You can join the mailing list at canadapolicomp40032 on the sidebar. It's underneath my book. And if you shop on Amazon and you want to support the show and not cost you anything extra at Amazon, just click on this link here and it will support the show if you buy things at Amazon. And you can join the mailing list here and sign up for the call-in show, which is on Sundays at 12:30. Here, we get a Zoom link and we hang out and then I post it. It's pretty fun. We've got a good core group of 7 to 10 people who show up pretty regularly, so it's a good time if you're interested. You can also buy the book without the ickiness of Amazon if you don't like Amazon on canadapoly.com directly, and you can support the show here as well by clicking on this Amazon link. And don't forget to check out the forums. The forums are a worthwhile place to discuss things with like-minded Canadians, including myself. Although I only make sporadic appearances recently, things have been crazy. Like it's been so crazy. I understand that you know how crazy it is, but I put out a daily show and I put out a whole bunch of other stuff, and like I live like a regular life too. Like I have a job and do regular everyday things. My job is a little unusual, I suppose, but my life is pretty regular, I think. But it's been really, really hard to be even keel. Like things are busy and they're just getting busier, and things are crazy and they're just getting crazier. So oh man, and I try and force myself into creativity time. So like I go out into the world and I collect things, and then instead of like hanging out on Twitter, I force myself to not hang out on social media, but to actually produce something. And that's part of the reason why this show exists, etc. So that's why I'm only sporadic on the forum, but I do try and stop in every couple of days to make sure things are running smoothly, etc. Yeah, so you can check out locals as well, and Amazon, there's the direct Amazon link. And let's get into the news. Some baby news, right? Canadian politics baby news. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Polyev. They're thrilled to welcome this little 9-pound angel into the world. He is peaceful. Mother is healthy. Valentina is boss. Dad is great. Oh, grateful, excuse me. And that's great. Wonderful. I like to start with happy news like that. In the middle of an election, 3 days before the election, my goodness. Mr. Polyev, I think you'll probably win your seat back. And, very interesting. It'll be very interesting to be in opposition against the PPC, right? Don't you wish you would have crossed the floor? Imagine the crowds you would have been getting. It's still, I haven't seen any kind of conservative branding on Mr. Polyev's stuff. So, we could see a floor crossing situation. Who knows? How many seats do you think the PPC will get? I think between 2. I think it could be as low as 2. I think we could be up to 12. Between 2 and 12. They're really turning the screws on the polls, though. But I'll show you in a minute. Do you want to see what panic looks like? Yeah, there's panic in the media. Right? People who are right wing are like, oh, you should never ever vote for Bernier. Hilarious. It's very interesting. We'll look at panic in a minute. This I thought was leading news. Elections Canada says they won't postpone balloting in the pandemic hotspots. So I was able to vote without a mask. I've seen news since then that says you're not allowed to vote without a mask because it's disruptive. Disruptive. Weird, right? Like there's a lot about that to unpack, probably beyond the scope of this show. But I was able to vote without a mask. I think election day, I think Monday is going to be an absolute cluster. I think it's going to be a nightmare. I think it's going to be disorganized. I think there's going to be people waiting hours to vote. I think they're going to close returning offices before people in line have had a chance to vote. I think there's going to be people who are upset. I'm just speculating. Who knows? I can't see the future, right? The reason I think that is because of the debacle on early voting, right? Now, maybe the early voting debacle has helped them fix some problems that were obvious. Maybe the early voting debacle will help avoid a situation that I was describing. I'm fearful that is a situation that we may go into because a low voter turnout favors the incumbent. And if they force a low voter turnout, then we could be looking at, who knows? Anyway, regardless, right? All of this is election interference. And like COVID is a form of election interference. We're going to suspend all of your rights. You know, the rights that are inherent, right, and don't get given to you by government. Yeah, we're going to suspend all of those. Why? Because of COVID, obviously. And then we're going to have an election and say it's a fair and honest election. Okay, sure, right? Like, and then we're also going to send out voting cards, and there's so many ways to influence an election, right? not letting certain people into debates, not letting certain people run ads on certain places, silencing candidates from Facebook and Twitter for the entire time. All of these things are interferences in our election. But anyway, I'm glad to hear that they won't stop the balloting, right, in hotspots. That's good. There's other things that they're doing, but I guess they won't do that. Oh man, it's a nightmare. There's a fly here who has a death wish. I may have to pause the show, go kill the fly, and then come back. He keeps landing on like my hands and stuff. It's very, very distracting. Maxime Bernier says, I hear heartbreaking stories every day about people losing their jobs because they're not vaccinated. Discrimination and exclusion of minorities went from being the most awful thing you could do to being the official ideology of the state in the space of a few months. Yeah, it is really, really jarring, right? So that's Maxime Bernier talking out against the othering of people, right? Through saying like, hey, discrimination and all of that stuff used to be seen as bad, and now it's seen as the only way to operate for your safety, comrade. Right? Weird. Herb says, I live in the only jurisdiction in Canada with its own mandate requiring you to manually document and contact trace people coming to your house or risk a $5,000 fine. Guess who my MP is? It's Aaron O'Toole. In Durham. Holy smoke-a-ronies, right? Is that gonna be impactful? Do you think the news media is gonna run with that little bit of knowledge? I might make that the title of this talk today. Hold on. Guess who's not fighting for his constituency? Aaron O'Toole. You get it yet? I went and got a fly swatter. That fly. Okay. So you get it, right? Very, very. Hold on a second. Okay, I got him. Sorry about that. Okay. Moving back into the news. Here's Maxime Bernier arriving at Oakville yesterday. Here's the whole clip because it's great.
All right. Maxime, thank you. Keep it going.
Let's do that for Maxime! Hello everybody, how are you? That's a nice day to fight for our freedoms and to fight for what we believe. I want to thank you to be here this morning. So, we just received another bad news coming from Alberta. Jason Kenney, as you know, said a couple of weeks ago that he doesn't know what is a vaccine passport and he wants implemented a vaccine passport in his province. But today, he flip-flopped like O'Toole on the vaccine passport, and he said that he will impose a vaccine passport in Alberta, and he said that he's supporting O'Toole because O'Toole also support the vaccine passport all across the country. Shame on them, they're not conservative anymore.
And we'll leave it there. That's just part of the stump speech, and he goes into it well, and the crowd is responsive and big. So, like, good for him. Well done. There's a lot of people who are very interested in what Mr. Bernier has to say. So that's a marked departure from 2019. Here's Brian Lilly, and this is what panic looks like. Look at the graphics. Look at what he's saying. Right? This is not honest journalism. This is propaganda. It is with a goal. It wants you to do something. There's an action. You have to take part. Okay, here it is. Bernier could be the kingmaker on election night. He and his party could help elect a lot of liberals in close ridings. Read and retweet as I lay out the case for O'Toole and against Bernier. If your goal is to replace Trudeau, you have one choice. Not vote for O'Toole because he's a fighter, and vote for O'Toole because he'll repeal the vaccine mandates and he'll do this and he'll do that. No. Vote for O'Toole if you want to get Trudeau out. The thing that Brian's forgetting is that O'Toole will do exactly what Trudeau is doing. So what'll it matter if you get Trudeau out, if you get the same policies with O'Toole, right? Come on, Brian Lilly, right? Stop being a propagandist, right? And it's stinky propagandism. Oh, awful, terrible. It's a stench. It follows him around, right? It's like the Charlie Brown character, Pigpen, right? Him. It's like that. This is the art. This is the creative that goes with it. This is the art piece that goes with it. It's got Bernier putting a crown on a Trudeau head. And it says, vote Bernier, get Trudeau. Planning to cast your ballot for PPC? Then you might as well hand the election to the Liberals. Wow, right? Fear marketing. Fear marketing. This is wrong. It's a lie as well. The PPC is resonating in a way that people did not expect, I think. Here's the Guelph candidate, Josh Lear, and he says, I feel sorry for our team that spent hours putting these signs out across town and our supporters who give us donations to buy these signs. Vote PPC. And so his sign is damaged here. And it says, vote for freedom, vote against fascists who do this to campaign signs, right? And there's like black spray paint on Josh's sign. And honestly, the sign team in Guelph for the PPC, I know these guys, they're great guys. And they are tireless. There's Mike. He's got his truck and he's got a PPC trailer and he drives it around. He finds the best places to park in town. He did it for me. He's working hard for Josh. It's unbelievable. Niall, as well as another just tireless helper. And like, they don't deserve this kind of disrespect, right? And it's so interesting to see what's happening. It's so interesting to see what's happening. You know, I think that my not being the candidate in Guelph derailed some plans. I think that they probably had some plans of how to deal with me this time, and me not being the candidate is one of those things that, like, they were expecting X and did not get that, and so I think some things changed, which is interesting to watch. But whatever. It's very interesting, very, very interesting. This is a PPC candidate, and the BC Assembly of First Nations is trying to get her removed. The BC Assembly of First Nations press release, they call for the removal of the People's Party candidate for distributing a flyer that equates the genocide of Indigenous peoples with vaccine mandates. The brochure shows an image of a group of Indigenous students standing on the steps of an Indian residential school with the statement, discrimination is wrong, no vaccine passport. And so apparently you're not allowed to make comparisons, right, with history. Don't you dare compare that to history, right? That's like Jim Watson yesterday talking about, the mayor of Ottawa, talking about how, you know, we really shouldn't compare this to Nazism and stuff. I'm not a Nazi, guys. Like, okay, sure. Well, stop acting like it then, right? My body, my choice, or unless my body, your choice, unless we're talking about killing a fetus, right, Jim? Right. Here's the response from the PPC candidate. She says the BC Assembly of First Nations is engaged in blatant gaslighting, receives significant government funding, and has been corrupted by people who fail to understand what freedom means. Yeah. Do you remember there was a time when, who was it? It was an investigative reporter who went into the first, like a meeting with a group of chiefs. I think it was Kian or maybe it was a rebel reporter, and they got them to show the finances, and he said, no, see, it's just Tides. It's just Tides. Tides is just giving us a little bit of money, and so, you know, it's fine. And he's like, wait, Tides is giving you money? I think it's Tides. I think that was the story. And it was just like, it was one of those things. It was swept under the rug, right? It was just like, oh yeah, no problem. You didn't know about that? Oh, I thought you knew. Like, I thought that everybody knew. In an interview on True North, the Andrew Lawton show, Maxime Bernier said it's a good time for his leadership to be reevaluated internally, though he was clear that he wishes to continue leading the party. You know, the only thing I don't need a leadership review. I think Maxime Bernier is doing just fine. I just need the standards for one. I just need, like, this is what we'll do in the event that Mr. Bernier is no longer the leader or whatever. Like, this is how we'll decide on the next leader of the party type deal. That's what I need. And I need a constitution that says, if there's a problem within the party, this is how you deal with it. Not sending an email or whatever, but this is how we all agree as this party. This is how we'll deal with it. These are like things that are necessary. I don't know exactly, you know, the leadership review or leadership to be reevaluated. But I think that's the last thing. Like, I just need the nuts and bolts. That's it, right? Like, I don't think I'm even asking for much. Really, I don't. But anyway, I voted for him. I did. I've already voted. I voted for him. I wasn't going to vote at all, but then I thought, okay, well, they've got a candidate in Guelph. I'll vote. I'll go out. I'll vote. I'll put my name on the stamp, right? But do I think it's actually going to, like, be meaningful in that? Do I think our election is 100% above board? No, right? And the reason that I don't think it's 100% above board is because of all of the interference tactics that I started the show talking about, right? Talking about different ways to muddy the vote or repress the vote, or COVID's part of that, sending out the the voter cards to non-citizens is part of that. Advertising limitations, removing candidates. I've talked about it all. I've talked about it all many times. So it's very difficult to be a person who really believes in this process when you can see there's so many vectors to attack it. There's so many vectors to invalidate it, right? Like if you were somebody who realized how valuable it would be to be in control of all of the political parties in Canada and have them march lockstep into handing the country over to people who would exploit it further. Like you don't understand what's going on with our geopolitics currently, right? Like there's a struggle, there is a war happening, whether you like it or not. It's happening, and well, a war's goal is to demoralize the population, reduce the GDP, right? Damage the infrastructure in any way possible, right? So like we've destroyed our own everything. We've done it all to ourselves, right? With terrible, terrible leadership and a public that's willing to go along with it. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Do you think that we're not in a war? Please give me your outline of we're not in a war. Everything's just fine. I think that we're in the midst of a war that was declared by the government on its citizens, the governments of the West on its citizens. And how do you deal with that? Right? Good question. It's a great question. Herb says, think about it in a different way. If they invested this much time, money, and effort into locking us down and taking away our rights, do you think that they put all their eggs in one basket, being Justin Trudeau? Or is it more likely that they have a plan, backups, other main candidates, etc.? Well, I mean, they've got Jagmeet Singh. He's willing to play ball. They've got Blanchette, he's willing to play ball. They've got Justin Trudeau, he's willing to play ball. Aaron O'Toole says he's down with vax passports and mandates and emergency orders and all of that other stuff. He's cool with $5,000 contact tracing in his own riding. He hasn't said a darn thing about it, right? So like Aaron O'Toole's cool. People trying to make the case that Mr. Bernier is controlled opposition. Okay, I watched Hypernormalization. Putin did that. He funded political parties on the other side, so funded the candidate, funded all of that stuff. Is it possible? I guess so, but it doesn't look like that's what's happening, because his stump speech, Bernier's stump speech, is not the stump speech of a controlled opposition. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But I've been listening to him for a while. His stump speech has not changed. I talked to him one-to-one in my car for more than an hour, right? And then I interviewed him. As far as a measure of a man, I think he's as genuine as they come. I don't think he's hiding anything, but I'm just a dude, right? Like, I don't know. And maybe I'm not a great judge of character, but from what I can tell, from what I've seen from Mr. Bernier personally, and watching my show to do my show, like, watching the clips of him and watching him interact with people, every person that I've seen have an interaction with him comes away believing him to be genuine, right? There's been a few people who have tried to spread lies and rumors and things about Mr. Bernier, and it's always not made sense. It hasn't held water. He's made a mistake. He's made mistakes. He's a human person, right? He's had a long career in government. In government, if you disagree in cabinet, say you're in cabinet, and Mr. Bernier has been in many cabinet positions, okay? Say you're in cabinet and you really disagree with something, and cabinet agrees that they're going to go in a way that you fought against. At the end of that meeting, you have to toe the party line. To be a part of that party, you have to agree and publicly push the same thing. Bernier fought, and he's come out about this after Harper, after being in Harper's cabinet. But he was talking about how he believed in doing things one way, but had to do things Harper's way because Harper was the leader and he was part of that party. So okay, right? People make mistakes. People have to live in the world that we've created around us, right? But I think that as far as Mr. Bernier goes, they're as genuine as they come. I don't think that he's controlled opposition, but I could be wrong, man. I could be wrong. The whole world is full of crazy, crazy stuff. If he's controlled opposition, and so is O'Toole, and so is Justin Trudeau, and so is Jagmeet Singh and Blanchette and all of the rest, I think I'd prefer Mr. Bernier as the controlled opposition that will destroy the rest of the country, right? Like, holy smoke! At least I could talk to the guy one-to-one, right? Like, I don't know. I had the opportunity to talk to Aaron O'Toole one-to-one. I waited for a few minutes and then I left. And the reason I left is because I didn't think it would change anything. I think he would tell me, it's like talking to Cam Guthrie one-to-one. They'll tell you exactly what you want to hear. Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I know we've got to fight that, blah, 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 blah. They'll tell you what you want to hear. They won't be honest with you. And then they'll do what they do. And so like when I say, at least I can talk to the guy, I've spoken with Bernier and I've seen him change his mind about things. So at least you can talk to him in that way. But if you talk to Aaron O'Toole at a campaign event or something like that, and he glad hands you and he tells you that he's going to do all the things you said, and then he doesn't, right? Do you feel like you really talked to Aaron O'Toole, or did you feel like you were campaigned? right? Like you kind of got drive-by campaign by somebody wearing a politician's outfit, right? Oh yeah, we're going to do this, but really they do whatever their agenda is, and say whatever they need to say to get elected. That's how I feel about most politicians, from Cam Guthrie to Aaron O'Toole to the rest of them, right? And I've met Cam Guthrie, I've met Aaron O'Toole, blah, right? So anyway, controlled opposition. I don't know. Don't think so. I don't think so, but maybe. Bringing out the big guns, right? All assets distributed on deck. Everyone's going. Former U.S. President Barack Obama endorses the Liberal leader Justin Trudeau on Thursday. Justin has been an effective leader and strong voice for democratic values, and I'm proud of the work we did together. Where did you? They didn't work together, right? Justin Trudeau was in 2015, and Barack Obama was out in 2016, so they had a year-ish, right? They had a state dinner where Barack Obama lied about Mariam Monsef. That's weird, right? Like, that's a little bit uncomfortable, right? So, yeah, weird endorsement. Not buying it, Barack. I don't know. I used to be a Barack Obama fan. Then I learned about Barack Obama, right? Woo, yikes, yowza. He's not the guy you think he is, right? So it's very interesting what's going on. Have you seen the Schumer? Is it Schumer indictment from the Hillary Clinton's the law firm they hired for their 2016 presidential run? It's a very interesting situation. Very interesting. Hey, speaking of Cam Guthrie, here he is. He says, Rick Mercer knows what it feels like to be a mayor. Oh, does he? Rick Mercer says, one of the things that drives me insane in Canada is how the average citizen does not know the difference between municipal powers, provincial powers, and federal powers and responsibility. The thing that drives me crazy about this is, sure, I confuse things sometimes, but sometimes, I would just stand up for the people that I'm representing. I wouldn't say, well, I'm not the premier, so I can't make that decision. I'd say the premier is going to have to arrest me in order to make him, or to make Guelph follow through with these rules. And the thing is, there's a group on the council, so it's not like the mayor has carte blanche, but the mayor has some powers. A spot on the police board, a spot in the city council, etc., right? But the funny thing is, the federal leaders, NDP notably, Aaron O'Toole notably, I talked about this yesterday. He was talking about elderly people, senior citizens, and how Canada can help them. And I said, are you trying, service delivery is provincial jurisdiction, right? Delivering healthcare, delivering security, delivering all those things is provincial. It's not federal. Federal's O'Toole's saying we're going to give you money, and then that just goes into the coffers of the Ontario budget or whatever, and then gets doled out by the provincial people. And the feds can say this money is earmarked for this, and the province will go, awesome, right? Because the province is overspending anyway. They don't have the money anyway. They can say, it's earmarked for it, but here's this money right here, and we got this bill to pay, right? Sure. So everybody gets confused about that. And one of the cornerstones of my campaign in 2019 was that we don't have any accountability in Canada. Often you'll say, hey, Mr. Mayor, we shouldn't do this. The police shouldn't enforce this. The fly is back. The police shouldn't enforce this, etc. And the mayor says, well, that's not my problem. That's provincial. And the provincial says, that's not my problem. That's federal. And the feds say, oh, well, it's not my problem. That's provincial. Right? It's pass the buck. And you've got an election. Always pass the buck. Here's a mayor that stands up for her people. Right? Here's a mayor who says no. Warwick Township Mayor saying no to vaccine passport. This is on September 7th. I missed this. How did I miss this? Warwick Township Mayor Jackie Romboots, sorry if I got that wrong, says she's not opposed to the COVID-19 vaccines, but will refuse to use Ontario's vaccine passports. It sounds like, I'm not racist, but I don't think this critical race theory thing is good. That's what this sounds like, right? I think that you could do whatever you want with regards to the vaccines, but I'm not taking it, right? Nope. It's similar. There's something similar about that. The mayor posted a statement on social media on September 6th saying she won't participate in the passport system. That starting September 22nd, she will require people to show proof of vaccination to get into restaurants, gyms, casinos, movie theaters, banquet halls, concert halls, and other venues where masks are not always worn. After a lot of contemplation and prayer, I've decided that I will not reveal my confidential medical information to anyone except my personal healthcare provider, Roberts said in the statements. I will refuse the Ontario vaccine passport, and I will not patron any business or organization that will not welcome all my fellow Ontarians equally, the statement said. I have no desire to live in a two-tiered society where there are haves and have-nots, where people live in fear of each other, where it is acceptable to discriminate against our neighbors, families, and friends. As mayor of the township in eastern Lambton County, Rombutz is a mayor of Lambton County Council that also sits on the county's Board of Health and oversees its public health department. She also is chairperson of a county council committee, Lambton Public Health reports to. Sarnia Mayor Mike Bradley said the next day that he believes Rombuts should step down as committee chairperson. So they go after your job. If you dare to say no, they go after your job. I understand this, and I would still say no. I think I would say no. I think I would say absolutely not. Like, you don't have the right to do this. You don't have the right to push this on other people. And I would hope that me saying no would encourage other people to say no. But I'm not in that situation, right? And so people have to make the choice that's right for them. And some people are in a situation where maybe they're the only people making money for their family. Maybe they're in a situation where it is starve or get the job. And that's not a choice. That's not a choice, right? Like, you have to survive, right? So the screws are being tightened. The way out of this is united mass non-compliance, but that's hard. That's hard. And one person can't make that decision for the rest of the country, right? So it has to be decided by the country. It has to be decided by grassroots people standing up and just saying no, right? Millhouse says, Kenny, Ford, Houston, and now Mo. Tell me again how Aaron O'Toole will be different. These are all conservative premiers who are on board with the vaccine passport. Scott Moe says this. Can you believe this? The arrogance, right? The arrogance of these people. As a government, we have been patient with those who have chosen to remain unvaccinated. But the time for patience is over. Today, our government will be announcing additional steps we are taking to protect our health capacity while also ensuring that Saskatchewan can continue to move forward. We're going to talk about hospitals and overcrowding and the removal of staff in just a minute, but this is not okay. And I said to Scott Moe, Scott Moe, we're losing patience with you. Like, you don't seem to understand who works for who here, Scott, right? You don't get to say that to us. You work for us. If you want to take the vaccine, that's fine. If you want to mandate other people to take the vaccine, you lose your seat, man. You lose your office. You lose everything. See you later, man. We're not interested in that. Canadians aren't interested in that, right? And it doesn't matter the propaganda campaign that goes along with it. This is wrong. It's wrong, okay? Doesn't matter if it's Ford, Mo, or anybody else. Kenny, it's wrong, and it should not be tolerated. This is Alberta last night. The government sent out an emergency alert to take the vaccine. Here's that emergency alert.
Vaccinated to emergency to protect the healthcare system. New public health restrictions will be in place starting 12:01 a.m. September 16th. Please follow the rules and get vaccinated to help stop the spread of COVID-19. To learn more.
So that's why I don't watch TV. Forget that, eh? Holy cow. The aspect of this is, the fear being propagated by the government using these tools is not appropriate. Again, it's wrong. It's coercive. It's coercive, right? What's more emergency yesterday than there was the other day? The problem is they're creating, I said this is the title of the video yesterday. They're creating the crisis in order to exploit the crisis. They should not be allowed to do any of it. They should not. They should not. The mandates are outside of their purview. They cannot mandate a medical procedure onto free humans. This is insanity in Canada. Insanity, okay? A question for any province, any government, any party. If a healthcare system will collapse when 200 ICU beds are filled from a population of millions, questions should be asked about how the money is spent. But if this is still an issue after 19 months, people need to be fired. It's not the Delta variant that has prevented Alberta from expanding their ICU to deal with the... a whole bunch of things just happened. I got a phone call and the garage door opened and a whole bunch of things just happened. So apologies. I lost my train of thought a little bit. But I think I was talking about capacity issues. And if the capacity issues are persisting after almost 2 years, it doesn't look like it's by accident, okay? Here is MPP Nichols. He was removed from the Conservative caucus. He was the Deputy Speaker of the House in Ontario. And he's got a message about forced vaccinations, and I think it's worthwhile, so take the time and watch it. It's 12 minutes. We're definitely worth the time to watch it. Guess who showed up to criticize Alberta and Saskatchewan on the pandemic, but never criticized Justin Trudeau for calling an election 3 days after she said Canada was in the fourth wave of the pandemic? We're going to look at what the fourth wave of the pandemic looks like. And I just think it's crazy that we're losing our minds about this. So first wave, second wave, third wave, and fourth wave. So you see the little squiggles in the corner here? Now the problem with that is because the squiggles start in August, right? And that's a problem because in August last year, the squiggles were almost flat. So we have more cases, more deaths, more hospitalizations now in August and then early September than we did last year. And I was saying, how does this vaccine help at all? Because it doesn't make any sense. And there's all sorts of data that's pointing to this is a problem, right? Here's Freedom Anna, and she says, we're clearly following just slightly above the COVID-19 best case scenario. Let's keep in mind that the middle yellow line is where they thought we would end up. The green and red were placed as far away as any model could possibly allow. So this is the projection and where we actually are, which is like the green and the red. Unbelievable. These people are, they're not honest and they're not credible and they don't have credibility. So it's just kind of funny. Breaking news from Dr. Julie Ponise, officially terminated from Huron College this morning. So I'll just play a little bit of this. 6 minutes after she got the can, or got the axe, got canned, got the axe, right? Okay. This is her on an interview.
Based on a most recent update from about 6 minutes before we hopped on this call, I just received my termination letter, formal termination letter from Huron College. So you can't say I'm from Huron anymore. I had everybody, from the administration and my union telling me, you have to respond and comply. And I said, no, I don't. If we don't do something about this now, we're going to have far worse problems than just how to put food on the table. And I know that sounds dismissive and like, well, how could there be a worse problem than that? But if we comply with or acquiesce to these mandates and to the government overreach, and they're very firm in their position that they don't feel as though they're required to offer us evidence. If we sort of acquiesce to that political state, we won't have a country to live in anymore. What we need to do is we need to say no. If you believe that the lockdowns are unsupported, if you believe that the mandates are a violation of your ethical and legal rights, you can't just move through society holding that belief and expect things to change. You have to hold up that belief and say, this is how my actions will change on the basis of it.
So what she's saying is you have to live as if it's true. Like you can't just say, I believe that I believe that this mask doesn't help me at all from COVID, but I'm going to put it on. If you believe that the mask doesn't help at all, don't put it on. If you're just trying to avoid conflict, maybe the conflict is what's needed, right? The end of normal driving, they're using this COVID-19 was brought in to get the vaccine. The vaccine was brought in to get the vaccine passport. The vaccine passport is brought in to get social credit, okay, to get to the social credit system. Digital ID, central bank digital currency, CBDC. Go look that up if you're interested. Amazing Polly does deep dives on this stuff. If you're interested in what's coming, if you want to know a year and a half from now, that's what's coming. I'm sorry, it is. I want to be wrong. The end of normal driver's license, mainstream media says, this is UK. I'll show you the Ontario version in a minute. Plans to make them eco-friendly and digital. Eco-friendly, just like our money. We don't have to print money on paper anymore. Lucky us, right? We just get to be tracked and geofenced for our money, right? They could be added to the Vax Health Passport to form part of your digital ID, all ready for social credit system. Shh, that's just a conspiracy, right? UK Home, is it the end for plastic driver's licenses? Digital documents could replace traditional permit under plans to make transport more eco-friendly. Very interesting indeed. Here's the Digital ID Ontario. You know what you can do with your Digital ID Ontario? Learn about Ontario's Digital Identity Program, which introduces a new, convenient way to prove who you are that will make accessing online and in-person services simpler, safer, and more secure. We will be introducing Digital ID in late 2021. What can you do with this? Oh, well, you can access and use your vaccination records, right? What else can you do with it? Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? Right? Very interesting. It's driving, it's everything, right? Like make an age-sensitive purchase like a lottery ticket, pick up a package at the post office, apply for government assistance, open a bank account. Wild stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy. CBC has changed the name for approved COVID-19, or CBC names have changed. CBC is reporting they haven't changed the names. Of the COVID-19 vaccine, Public Health Agency of Canada says Pfizer will now be named Commentry and Moderna will be named Spikevax. What'd you get? I got Spikevax. Yeah, right. The changing of the names is interesting because like history books will call it one thing, right? Probably not 2 or 3 or 4, whatever they are. AstraZeneca will be called Vaxzevria, right? The rebranding, right? Like too many people have died on this one. Let's change the name. Okay. Brilliant, says Sajid Javid. He's the UK Health Minister, I think. I think he's the UK Health Minister. Member of Parliament, Secretary of State for Health and Social Care. So, yeah, essentially, for all intents and purposes, Health Minister. Brilliant to see the first booster jabs starting today. Oh, and your vaccine passport's out of date. Sorry, citizen. I'm sorry, citizen. It says here that you haven't had a booster in 6 months. It says here that you haven't had a booster in 4 months. It says here that you haven't had a booster this week. Right? Do you remember the island where everybody had to take their meds in the morning? Right? Everybody kind of woke up and they went down to the thing, they took the meds, and right? It's to keep them dopey, right? Health Minister Dubé, very firm. Okay, so we're going to get into the hospitalizations here. I teased this earlier. They're creating a crisis through mandating vaccines and removing the people who have any questions about the vaccines or their efficacy or the fact that they're not working, right? So how do you get rid of all of these people who all have healthcare jobs and they've got like 17, 18 years experience, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the way you get rid of them is you tell them that they have to do this or that you're going to fire them, right? And not fire them so they can get social services. They'll just get put on unpaid leave forever, right? Health Minister Dubé in Quebec, very firm that 20,000 Quebec healthcare workers need to get vaccinated by October 15th. They are going to say no. They have said no. We went from 2 weeks to flatten the curve so hospitals don't get overwhelmed, to hospitals overwhelming themselves by firing staff who do not want to take a leaky experimental mRNA gene therapy. Leaky therapy. Now, I've talked about this before. If you're interested in leaky vaccines, go to canadaReport.co and you can look up leaky and it'll take you to the Murex chicken study. And the Murex chicken study talks about how vaccinated chickens breed a more deadly version of the virus and then spread it to unvaccinated chickens, and those unvaccinated chickens die very quickly, usually 10 days. Ebola doesn't kill everything in 10 days, but this mutated chicken virus does. Now, and that's called ADE or AED, antibody dependence enhancement, I think. And so ADE and ADE, because of the vaccine, makes it worse for other people, right? For other chickens. Right? Could that be happening now? Right? They keep saying, oh, it's only unvaccinated people. People were warning about this outcome. And they said, no, don't worry about that. Nothing's happening like that. This is a non-sterilized vaccine. It doesn't sterilize the vaccine, meaning the vaccine, you could still take hold, but it's supposed to reduce the symptoms. But the way it acts, you could have no symptoms and spread the disease, maybe, right? Right? If what they're saying is true. And I don't believe necessarily anything they say, but these things are speculated about. And then they start trying to say, oh, this is a disease of the unvaccinated. When the warnings come true, they're trying to blame the unvaccinated, right? For the ADE response of this, of what's happened here. So it just seems very, very crazy. It seems very crazy. Now, I had this this link to the nurse from Quebec, the Pontiac nurse. And the tweet is now gone. You can't see the tweet. So I was like, oh no. So I sent out another tweet this morning looking for the source video of this. I was like, it's on the internet somewhere. Send me the Telegram link, please. But I just want to show you that this link doesn't exist. So this tweet is from a suspended account. So what I was going to show you in response to Miss Elliott here, and I'll read what she says in a second, was kind of medium scrubbed from the internet. I found it though, so I'll show it to you, and you'll remember it when I show it to you. But Christine Elliott, who's the Minister for Health for Ontario, says a commonly asked question is whether vaccines are safe while pregnant. COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective during pregnancy, and in fact, pregnant women with COVID-19 are at an increased risk for hospitalization and ICU admission. So she's saying, get it, and if you don't get it, you're at an increased risk. Twitter removed this nurse from Pontiac, Quebec, who... hold on a second. Sorry, I accidentally closed the tab. Anyway, this woman, and I appreciate her for speaking out, but the intro to the video is funny because she says her first name is Erica Beardsley, and I was like, that's a weird first name. I'm sure her first name is Erica and her last name is Beardsley, but she says, my first name is Erica Beardsley. And I thought, that's hilarious. But this is the nurse, and she's the one who's talking about the spontaneous abortions and other negative effects that she's seen. She's a Canadian nurse. You can see the Quebec highway sign in the background. Somebody said, oh, she's not Canadian. I said, yes, she is. And then I laughed and pointed that out. But anyway, here she is. Here we go.
My first name is Erica Beardsley, and I left nursing in Quebec after 11 years. I loved my job. I loved the people. And I physically seen people restraining the elderly and vaccinating against their will while they scream no. I seen patients coming in with suicide, and they are testing them after death. Once they're dead, they're testing them for COVID. Why? Why are we testing them for COVID? I've witnessed a lot of people dying of heart attacks shortly after the vaccine. I've witnessed miscarriages at full term, 4 days after vaccine. And that's just a little town, a little community. Because I'm in a little hospital, a small hospital, and I worked on every floor. I worked in long-term general care, emerge, external clinic. I saw it all.
What's the size of the community?
About 3,000. It's the Pontiac area of Quebec. And I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to hide.
Erica Beardsley, man. Wild. So that's something to think about. Here's another thing to think about. This is nurses. Sorry if this is too loud.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think just listening to people talk, how come nobody's asking the nurses why they don't want it?
Yeah.
Why don't you want it?
That should be a
That's why we're here.
huge red flag. That should be a huge flag. Why is nobody asking these questions? Because you have healthcare systems that have very minimal people vaccinated. They want to tell you that they're fully vaccinated. They are not. There is departments with 20% vaccinated. ER departments are very low. Why? Why, people? We are seeing it, and they're not listening.
I think the last 18 months for a lot of us has been a blur. I mean, what's normal anymore? Nothing. To think that we were once hailed as heroes and people that other people looked up to because of what we were doing, and to now suddenly we're being referred to as ignorant, uneducated, and that we're directly responsible for spreading this virus around is absolutely absurd. And what's happened in the last 3 months even has perpetuated that absurdity to just downright insanity. I can't, it's disgusting that humanity has turned to this, and all of this division amongst, just good people and even coworkers. We're all experiencing bullying, coercion, name calling, segregation. It's just unacceptable.
More and more people speaking out against this, more and more people saying no, more and more people saying like what's happening is just seems crazy, right? Those were nurses as far as I know, but double check, it's the internet. I don't know. It's like InfoWars, right? But I mean, anybody could put anything up. Anybody could say who they are. This is another very concerning one, but I think this illustrates a different side of this. This guy has an integral job at a hospital. He's one of two. Okay, I'll let him explain, but unbelievable stuff happening. Okay, here we
go. I'm up here today because I am a healthcare worker. I've been in my profession for almost 20 years. None of you probably know what I do. I run the heart-lung bypass machine, open heart surgery. There's two of us in this town. We were both in this room today. When we can't show up for work, the hospital goes on diversion, which means the ER can't take critical patients and the helicopters fly right over us. Neither one of us are getting this vaccine. Neither one of us are willing to take that because we know what's at stake for freedoms past that. I've alternated between, should I just keep providing for my family? Should I take the jab and just keep getting my paycheck? I'll take it for the team. If I die, at least they'll get provision for as long as it takes until I may or may not have symptoms. But then I'm like, no, that can't happen, because if I fold here, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm here because the Board of Supervisors is failing, other than Patrick.
Patrick's a hero. So he's not threatening. He's saying, if you tell me I have to take this jab, and if I don't take it, I can't come to work. I'm telling you I can't come to work. And I'm telling you, if I can't come to work, the helicopters fly over and real people, other people who would not have died from, had you not put this edict in, will die. And it's not his fault. It's their fault for making this impossible edict. They are creating a crisis on purpose. They're doing it in the States, and they're doing it in Canada, and they're doing it on purpose, and they're going to use it to lock us down. They're going to say, oh, we're in crisis, and they're going to lock us down and say, there's no other way out of this. We have to do it this way. And they're going to lock us down. I'd love to be wrong. Please, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be like, oh man, October going into November and no lockdowns, unbelievable, right? I'd love it. We'll have a little party, right? Because we'd be allowed, because we wouldn't have lockdowns. A little thread, a little epiphany about the pandemic. I know what it says. So I have mentioned on here multiple times that my wife is a nurse at a hospital. This is Twitter. Okay, take it with a grain of salt. Last night, she worked an extra shift in the emergency room, not her regular department. This is September 13th, 2021. She found out how they are getting away with claiming there's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. While dealing with a patient who came in exhibiting symptoms of myocarditis, a full-time emergency room nurse conveyed some very interesting information to my wife. Apparently, all patients are asked whether or not they received the COVID-19 vaccination, no matter what issue it is that brought them into the ER. If the patient receives the vaccine less than 14 days prior, they're recorded as unvaccinated. The story the nurses are being given is that this is done because the vax takes 14 days to start working. The full-time ER nurse my wife talked to last night has a different theory. So it's a theory, okay? Well, be aware, theory. It has been her observation that most patients coming in with what appeared to be a vaccine injury are coming in within 72 hours of receiving the jab. By recording these patients as unvaccinated, they can do a few things. 1, they can claim those vax injuries as a result of COVID and not the shot. 2, they can bury the vaccine injury. 3, they can claim there's a pandemic of the unvaccinated because that person counts in the unvaccinated pool. It also turns out the nurses are being required to sign non-disclosure agreements, promising not to publicly discuss any proceedings with COVID-19. My wife refuses to sign this agreement, and she's awaiting possible retaliatory response from upper management. But she says that the ER nurses at her hospital are mostly very close-lipped about all of this. These nurses are in fear for their jobs and have been very effectively intimidated. We need nurses across the country to start talking about all of this openly, as I'm sure our little hospital is not the only place that this is occurring. You don't believe it? Check out Brian's work here, and there's a BitChute video. More evidence here. The CDC is instructing people to do the practice that I'm telling you, marking them as unvaxxed if they're less than 14 days from their second vax. I don't know what the procedure is in Canada. I've seen the numbers, and it looks overwhelmingly like unvaccinated people are being impacted currently. But again, I wonder, how is the data manipulated, if it's manipulated at all? Is there any qualifiers about people who are noted as unvaccinated? What are they, right? Where can I find them? I don't know. So it's interesting. I'm going to ask my doctor. We had comments. Avis Favero is sad that she's fake news. Oh, single tear. And she says, we had comments that this story on unvaccinated patients with severe COVID in ICU was fake and shot in a studio with mannequins. We are posting additional raw material to counter misinformation. See, this definitely not on a sound studio. This doesn't look like ER at all. It's like, come on. Like, the thing is, if they weren't lying to the public, then the public wouldn't be calling them liars. Right? Their story is not credible. Their story does not match up with people's real live experiences, right? Their story is fake news bullshit propaganda paid for by the government. And I'm sorry that she's sad, but I don't give a shit. I don't care. She says, like, she's trying to say it's not fake news, and I'm saying you're fake news. Fake news. Chinese Major General worked with fired scientists at Canada's top infectious lab disease. Okay, disease lab. The other week, okay, we went into an election because Justin Trudeau took the Speaker of the House, I think his name's Anthony Rota, to court as the representative of the House of Commons, challenging parliamentary supremacy because a House of Commons committee demanded the documents about this. And now we find out. So the whole election is about documents that talk about this. And all along, there's been Wei and Chen. Okay? And Chen, it turns out, is a major general in the Chinese People's Liberation Army. So we've got a major general in the Chinese Liberation Army walked out by the RCMP in Winnipeg, and we've got this election to bury those documents. That's where we're at. Very interesting. Here's the some more color, some more filler for this one. A high-ranking officer in the PLA, People's Liberation Army, recently lauded by President Xi Jinping for developing a Chinese COVID-19 vaccine, collaborated on Ebola research with one of the scientists who was later fired from Canada's high-security infectious disease laboratory in Winnipeg. The joint research conducted by Major General Chen Wei and former Canadian government lab scientist Qi. So I've been talking about these two. These are the two that were walked out, right? Like Chen Wei and Qi. I was calling them Chen and Qi, but it doesn't matter. Same thing. The cooperation between the Chinese military and scientists at the National Microbiology Laboratory went much higher than was previously known. The People's Liberation Army is the military wing of the China's ruling Communist Party. Major General Chen and Dr. Qi, who until recently headed the vaccine department and antiviral therapies section at the Winnipeg lab, collaborated on two scientific papers on Ebola in 2016 and 2020. These papers did not identify Major General Chen as a high-ranking officer, and the Chinese military's top epidemiologist and virologist instead. She's identified as Wei Chen, who held a PhD and worked at the Beijing Institute of Biotechnology, part of the Academy of Military Science. I mean, if we had known in 2018 that Chen was a top-ranking military Chinese Chinese major general, would we have been cool with it? Right? Would we have said like, oh, well, Justin, it's fine, right? No, I don't think so. Weird, right? The Globe and Mail has confirmed that Wei Chen and Major General Chen are the same person. Author Elaine Dewar first reported the links between Dr. Qi and Chen in her recent book on the origins of the deadliest pandemic in 100 years, An Investigation. The Globe asked the Public Health Agency, I wonder how many of those people were killed by malnutrition and thirst in old age homes because people are monstrous. I wonder, eh? The Globe asked the Public Health Agency of Canada if it is standard practice for scientists at the NML to work with high-level military medical researchers in China. While the NML does not have institutional agreements with the Chinese military, Canada's scientists have collaborated with Chinese scientists to contribute to the global public health fight against this deadly diseases such as Ebola. PHAC spokesperson Anne Jenner said in a statement Tuesday. These collaborations have yielded vaccine and treatment candidates for diseases as documents in peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals, right? Wonderful. Published and everything. So that's a problem, I think. That's probably should be front page news, talking about Justin Trudeau's incompetence and allowing Chinese military to have access to our biolabs and stuff. I'm just saying. But is it? No. Canada is caught off guard by a new security pact between U.S., Australia, and Britain. Like, hey guys. Thing is, these guys, U.S., Australia and Britain, maybe heard about the China connection, right? And maybe they were like, you know what we got to do? We got to get rid of that whole thing. So let's keep Canada out of this for now, right? In 2019, the Canadian government agreed to $900 million settlement in class action lawsuits over military sexual misconduct. In December of 2020, there were 2,729 claims. By mid-July of 2021, there were 7,346 claims, and tonight there are 9,267 claims. Claims have more than tripled in 9 months. The unfortunate thing, though, is anybody who's a general or major general or, a specific rank, they can't be charged with anything. So, I don't know, like easily 9,000 of these claims will be just wiped. Gone. See ya. I'm just kidding, right? Who knows what the upper echelon of the Canadian military is up to, right? Just ask Jonathan Vance. Let's ask him, right? Didn't he have multiple children in a out of wedlock situation with somebody who was married to somebody else? And I mean, is that something that should lead to you being fired if you're the commander of the Canadian Army, right? I mean, Justin Trudeau, right? Like, is Justin Trudeau and his wife still together and like his personal issues and stuff? Like, is that impacting him? Are there rules around that, right? And I mean, like, if you're sexually assaulting somebody, that's one thing. But if you're having multiple children out of wedlock with somebody, is that sexual assault? That's Vance, right? I don't know. I'm not sure, right? But the thing is, it is a very slippery slope. And if we're dealing with this, instead of dealing with the real issues that a military is supposed to deal with, are we like reasonably protected from the threats that we have a military to protect us from? Or are we just, getting into more trouble? Like using the military to focus on like the hashtag Me Too, and we're so up our own nose about it that we're not effective at anything else, right? Forget COVID-19, like holy cow, right? Sexual assault, that's that. How do you fix that, right? How long have women been in the military, right? Is this as easy a fix as that? Well, I mean, if you're not jabbed and you're not male, you can't be in the military. What's the difference, right? Not jabbed or gender, right? Like, it's discriminatory anyway, right? So, right, if you support jabbed, no job, then you should support like male, no job, right? Or is there a difference there? I'm not necessarily advocating for it. I just think it's interesting, one way or the other. No, I think that they're trying to make it in the States so that women can be drafted. And like, if you don't understand the value of women build the society, right? Most women are successful at mating and having children. 50% of men are not, right? So like, if you start drafting women, what's going to happen to your society, right? What's the point of that, right? So like, we as a society don't value women the way we used to. And we say, just like women's health is an excuse for abortion, people put out women's rights as an excuse to devalue the value in women, right? Who's raising your kids? How do you propagate your society if the person who's supposed to be raising your kids is out doing something else, right? Out raising other people's kids in a daycare because they get paid for that one, right? It's weird. It's a very strange, it's just as strange as propagating killing babies and saying like, we're champions of women's health, right? Don't talk about the baby though. Like, okay, thanks you liberals, like you crazy people, go kill some more babies, you nut jobs, right? Like, I can't believe it's a statement that is totally accepted in Canadian politics. It's one of those things that has been jarring to me forever. I'm like, and you can't talk about it. You can't talk about it because people are like, oh, well, it's like, well, like we're killing people. Like, sure, women's health, right? Like, sure, if the woman has a baby, she may not be able to pursue her choice career and stuff, which is the excuse for like a violation of level 7, the seventh part of our Constitution. That's the one that they're saying is violated and supports these abortion rights. And it's like, the baby doesn't get any chance though, right? Like, the baby doesn't get to become what they were going to become. So, right, that's cool, right? If it just saves one life, but yeah, you can definitely have an abortion, right? Like, if it saves one life, let's lock everybody down. But yes, we'll definitely kill your baby, okay? Sorry for getting hung up on this, but holy effing crap. And honestly, it has everything to do with politics. It has become poisonous to talk about this. It has become poisonous to the degree where it is like taught in schools. So in Catholic schools, they have the March for Life. They have lots of anti-abortion posters and stuff up, which I thought was jarring when I worked there. I thought, man, like, this is interesting, but it's part of the Christian faith. I'm interested to hear if they still do that. Man, I'm long today. I didn't think I was going to be this long. But it's so accepted, and I think it will take talking about it differently to make it unacceptable again, because now it's just accepted. Like, the baby doesn't even come into the conversation. It's women's health. It's such a weird thing. Sorry for fixating. I apologize. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out canadapoly.com, check out canadaReport.co, check out speakingmoistly.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.